What was the first thing? It was like, we have to mark this off the list to be better distributors for our customer.
Owners get excited about 40%, but 60% is what we should be frustrated about.
Describe to me your operational background.
We're servicing like 226 or so customers right now. Their growth this year has been almost 30+% in purchase.
Let's break down what the consignment program is.
Consignment's the fastest way to get the most savings.
90% of these vendors, all they want you to do is sell more. That's it.
If I were to tip my cards and say, what would the perfect thing be that would help this industry next? It is simple.
What's been the biggest aha moment that some of the people were like, light bulb?
One of our big lifts this year, Will, is...
Welcome to Beers with Contractors.
Listen, contractors, it's Will. We got a cool episode today. Listen, you're going to hear from one of our best and favorite sponsors on the show, but it's not just about the sponsor. It's about the business stuff that you're going to learn from today. If you are in my industry, one thing I want to point out, November 11th through the 13th, this year in Indianapolis, we actually are going to be there at a training with our guests today at Foundation Rescue Supply. You got to get there. You got to bring your team there. We're going to put a link in the show notes, but also into their resource menu, which is going to be chocked full of stuff that you can use in your business today. So be sure to check out the show notes before we get going, and I'll see you in the episode. All right, tradies, another episode of Beers with Contractors. Special episode today because, hey, Terry is not here, and I finally get to sit in my studio that I've built several months ago, but we've been having sound ricochet issues and things like that. But to all 6 or 7 of you out there excited for this episode, we've got a great guest on that's been a long-time friend of mine from the Foundation Rescue Supply Distribution Network. Man, they are awesome. They're obviously, if you've been listening to us a long time, they're sponsors of our show, but also just the stuff that this guy is coming out with to help people is just above and beyond. So we're going to dive into those stories today. And also we're going to go down, memory lane a little bit too, because we've known each other for forever. But today we have Scott Llewellyn with Foundation Rescue Supply. Scott, cheers to you.
Cheers. I'm doing coffee. This was an early morning.
Hey, I know we've known each other a long time. We're going to dive into that, but it's kind of weird. You guys are a supply company, and most people think it's like, okay, cool. Here's your catalog. Here's all that stuff. But no, you guys come from some construction roots, which I think is pretty cool. You and Mike Wegman have told me about you guys, but I think it would be a discredit if I try to recite all that from memory. But Foundation Rescue Supply is part of Kent Companies, and this history is so cool. So give me a big 10,000-foot view of Kent Companies, and we'll drill down even farther.
Oh, goodness. Okay, Kent Companies is a privately owned 50-year-old company, still controlled by the same family. They do pour concrete, large projects. They do tilt-up construction. The biggest probably claim to fame for them, with all the divisions across the country, they're going to and have crossed $1 billion in annual sales. They're the 6th largest concrete company in the country, and we're fractional division of that company. So we've been around for 18 years. Mm-hmm. Obviously, concrete, steel goes together, and that's how this division was born with my boss that you refer to, Mike Wegman, has been doing that for 18 years. He's Kent Company's longest running division manager. So he's kind of the grandpa of the block.
They just can't get rid of him. He's a fixture now.
He is.
Hey, and by the way, most people that are listening to this are going to think well, okay, this is just one of your sponsors and stuff like that. I think there's tons of stuff we can take away from today that businesses can implement in their business. Just because the mindset you guys carry just blows my mind. You guys have such a long-term mindset. What's it like working with everybody at Kent Companies? Because everybody I've spoken with, it's we're going to be around for another 100 years. Is that really what it's like?
It is. And this division's been so positive. We'll dive into the history, but sometimes this industry does have a dark side. We can't run from it sometimes, but the reputations of some companies unfortunately precede themselves. But when I got into this, me and Mike met. I was a customer, so they came and met me, and I bought some of the products. And then next thing you know, Mike asked me to go to dinner, and he flew out to see me in Virginia, and he shared a vision that was unapproachable. And it really was about training, and it was about everything but the products. And he goes, "Can you help me build it?" And I haven't looked back.
I was going to say, and you were like, I don't know what to do with my hands. I guess we'll build it. But that's what's crazy about it, though, is like it's already a pretty congested market. And you know this, Scott. Sometimes it comes out, well, what's the thickness of the plastic, or what's the price per unit for this and that and the other? It's more than that, because, I mean, hell, if you just want to sell plastic out of the back of a storage unit, hell, anybody can do that. But this operational sense, it is just wild. But also, like, it doesn't appear to me that Kent Companies has spared any expense in trying to more so develop long-term relationships with people, which blows my mind, because most are like, well, we got somebody bigger in your backyard. Let's just talk to them, right? And like, it's just so cool that you guys have done that. This weird reestablishment of what a vendor relationship should be. So how much of that is you helping Mike, or is that all the parts working together? And when was that light bulb moment that FRS was going to be something special?
He shared the vision, and it wasn't really a job description. I mean, the job description was very loose. So obviously we do have to sell product, or none of this happens. But overseeing the sales team, and then he gave me a lot of latitude to create these tools that we can push back and help our core group of customers. And, we've done nothing but grow, gaining new customers. If we start with the training, I mean, it started with just having marketing flyers to explain the product. And we took it to install inspections. We took it to install manuals for the crews, and then, competitive advantage flyers. I mean, we're trying to teach them some verbiage, because they have to add value to our products to make money. And we want to show them where the value is. You're right. Plastic's plastic. It's the process we focus on. So I don't care if you're using 10 mil, 12 mil, 14 mil, 20 mil, 120 mil. I mean, the process of putting that down is relatively the same. So we're focused on the process. And then when we talk to a customer, we ask them where their product falls into the process. And that's how we kind of start the conversation.
Yeah, well, that's what's funny is, like, anybody can sell it, like I said, out of a storage unit, but it's not often you see organizations, specifically vendors. I mean, let's just paint a picture here. When I go to Lowe's and buy stuff like lumber or cabinets or whatever, there's nobody behind the counter saying, hey, by the way, like, we have this free training over here that, like, will teach you how to sell cabinets better. They just don't do that. They'll be like, hey, can you sign up for this special credit card and things like that? I mean, that's a broad example, but I want to be very clear, like, across the gamut, no vendors are doing this. And it's just crazy. I mean, sometimes they do it a little bit here and there, but it's typically more product focused and down into the weeds. And you have to have that in our business, obviously. But
Of course.
man, you had put a hell of a dent in creating this ethos, this kind of like circle of support that touches every department of our industry's businesses, including accounting, which is unheard of.
I'm going to stay away
And
from
we're going
that
to dive
one,
into
but yeah.
that. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, it's a good thing, but it's like, so where was the starting point? Because you guys, we're going to go through a list of things that you guys do, including like training and stuff. But like, what was the first thing? It was like, we have to mark this off the list to be better distributors for our customer.
When I came in the door, the guys for almost 15 years had been selling off 3 pages of price guides, and there was no pictures. There was no nothing. It was, here's my part numbers, here's my part, here's my description, and here's my price. So I don't want to say we were like everybody else, because we were still different, but that was the first task. Give me marketing structure. And that was kind of, I thought they were going to subcontract me and just do that. We picked the products that fit in the processes, and that's where we started. And once we launched that, we immediately went into install guides, because more than anything in the years in the business, the 3 companies I was at, I mean, training is at its core. If you're not training, you're going backwards. And we believe in that still. So Mike has allowed me to really invest a lot in that.
Well, and so speaking of training, this is I love. I called you on here because we're on the eve of this awesome training that you're facilitating. You're like the grand maestro of this awesome training because you already had one in Charlotte last year. But tell us about the one coming up in Indianapolis and all the shit that we're going to be going over because,
Oh,
dude, it's
goodness.
a full suite of operational support.
It really is. This one's going to be a little bigger than Charlotte from a class offering. This year, we ended up doing two major events kind of on the national scale. They were both in Charlotte. And then we did several, 8 other sales trainings regionally that were slightly smaller, that were sales focused. But these major national events, I think when I did the class description, just again, to put it out into the world, you have 15 different classes in a day and a half.
Holy
Obviously, you
smokes,
guys
man.
are part of that as well. But, yeah, there's some product classes in there. There's got to be. We're talking about new products. But the core group of classes have to do with some of the accounting. They have to do with KPIs. We live and die by these numbers in our business. And I'm finding over time, not all the companies I interact with know what they are. So that became very important to us. How to implement inside sales. I think that's a missed opportunity across the board for all companies. I tell a story in one of my trainings about how my daughter kind of put me in my place one year, Will. I was bragging. We were having a good month. I was probably closing 42%. And she was probably 9. And she said, "Dad, you fail 60% of the time." And
I remember this story.
From that moment forward, she made me look at inside sales. And owners get excited about 40%, but 60% is what we should be frustrated about. So inside sales is a huge effort for me right now. I know you and Sydney believe in it greatly.
Yep.
So that's a very important class. We're doing a lot of warm up in our sales process. We're doing some financing, how to sell financing. But just to tip my cards, I mean, one of our big lifts this year, is we will be releasing our in-home sales presentation in Indy. This is a
I am
tool
pumped for
that's
this.
going to be a game changer for most companies.
Well, and you've teased us on social media with a few pictures. And by the way, I know you have a very specific market segment, but it translates to so many different home services. It's crazy. And, it's kind of back. And I'm going to be clear. So I don't want to sound like high and mighty, right? But I used to be one of those guys that worked off of a 3-page price sheet and a few crusty old pictures with dog-eared pages. Now I'm showing my age, Scott, and you know how old I am and how long I've been doing this, right? But it amazes me, off the shelf, a contractor like me in our industry, there's nothing like that exists unless you're part of a special buying group or private equity or something like that. So that's going to be a game changer. And welcome to the world of programming, buddy. But now you're in it.
No. This is a very basic but very simple for everybody to use. I am not in your world.
Yeah. So let's break that down though, because I'm excited to see it in November. But also, I know that some of us, we have our core products and some of which come from you, but then we have some other ones that kind of fall in between. Well, give us just a gloss over of what it is. Build me up the anticipation, because I'm tired of you teasing me up on LinkedIn.
That's it.
With all these pictures and stuff.
Most definitely. Again, we're so process focused. I didn't want this to be heavily focused on product. This is about a solution that a homeowner is going to buy from somebody. So looking at the different categories, obviously we're going to touch on wet basements. I don't care if you're doing it on the top of the footer, face of the footer, or doing exterior waterproofing. All 3 are going to get covered in this program. If you're doing crawl spaces, the full gamut of crawl space repair will be there. All the products, all the processes, whether you're doing crawl space jacks, if you're doing supplemental, you're doing main beams. We're touching on a little bit of woodwork, but for the most part, that's probably a weaker category in there for this first round. And then, of course, we're getting into foundation repair, full-blown helicals or push piers. The difference is the benefit of both.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this is what caused it. This is how you can fix it from a process standpoint. There's some introduction to the company. So there is a way of modifying this presentation of probably 12 or so different slides, if you would. It's not a linear presentation. It's dynamic, but the about us is still important, whether it's the sales rep that's doing the inspection, the install crews, all of the reviews that the company can show off. Why do business with them is basically how I looked at the front end of this. And then it transitions into the solutions. It wraps up the whole presentation with what's next. If you don't buy today, what's going to happen next? It talks about the deposits. It talks about financing. And then, of course, this isn't a drawing platform. That's maybe next generation somewhere down the line. We're looking at some different partners there to make that happen. But this is going to give a clean process to a sales rep in a house.
Yeah. Well, and we see it so often where it's like, well, we've got some great friends in the industry. And the hardest point for a lot of contractors is making the leap from the owner of the business running all the sales calls to handing it over and saying, here, you're going to run all these. Here, just absorb all my knowledge and just be able to verbalize every bit of it.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to retain all that stuff. And honestly, if I'm being clear, most owners talk too much about themselves and stuff on the sales call anyway. So it's kind of good to refocus it because, well, homeowners already know. They have the problem.
Yeah.
You can fix it. But it does come down to the delineation of what are the results I'm getting and why should I be doing business with you? Because, dude, there's a lot of shady people out there, man.
It is. And one of the things that we focused on this year a lot, Will, I haven't counted since Atlanta, I think, but we had 350 some people come through our sales training this year. It's a class that I love teaching.
Dude, that's massive.
Because, I, like you, probably did 10,000 plus inspections. But, what's missing and the core of all of my sales presentation and really this platform, simple. It's empathy. And people get so confused by empathy. But this whole platform's built around, not I'm sorry, it's I know how you feel because I've been there. And those two things are very different. And, it's hard to teach it, but it's something that helps these sales reps in the home is just being humble.
Well, with all of those sales trainings, I'm glad you brought up a number because I knew it was in the several hundreds that you trained last year. And we've been talking about Indianapolis coming up on, I think it's November 11th, 12th, and 13th.
That's right.
But man, you did a lot of training this last year. Dude, poor Teresa, man. I don't know when you're home, but every time I'm talking to you, you're in some other part of the country. But with the trainings of, a lot of the salespeople you've been training and the owners, what's been the biggest aha moment that some of the people were like, light bulb? Oh, crap, I've been doing it wrong for so long. And bam, the results they get after.
The fun part is I do see the aha moments, and it's not that they're doing it wrong because, I'm pretty humble with what I'm teaching in the sense that this is just what worked for me. So when I built the platform, I had to take into consideration all these other personalities. So I think it's fun when you see that aha moment of their eyes light up because they heard me say something that they're saying differently. And I think that's all this process is. I mean, for the most part in this industry, there's 9 steps, 10 steps, 12 steps, 5 steps, whatever the number is.
It's like, what are we recovering from?
Yeah. So I joked around because where I came from. I know we used to follow a 10-step sales process. Well, I joked around and built a 9-step because I wanted to get there faster than that fool.
Yeah, it's like that scene in Something About Mary where it's like, 8-minute abs. I got a great idea. 7-minute abs.
That's right.
Hey, now hold on. I got to give you credit where credit's due because I've seen one of your sales trainings, and I remember you role playing through a scenario, and it blew my mind. You went through a 5-minute explanation about the circumstance and the result you would get. You didn't mention the name of the product maybe once, maybe twice in 5 minutes. And it blows my mind how sticky some of these sales trainers are about like, yeah, you need this, you need that. Like, I know we've been doing this a long time, but to train that is powerful. So I know that you're building that into their process, but where the hell did you come up with this approach of like, no, it's about you and not just selling a damn product?
I had some traumatic events in this industry, like the most of us. So when I left one of those big companies, I said, I'm out of this industry. And I got a really good opportunity to go sell Kohler showers. And Kohler, nice brand, very expensive. There was 180 sales reps in Lynchburg or in Virginia. It was one call close, and I felt dirtier doing that than I did crawling underneath the crawl space. So I learned what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I didn't need to be heavy at the table to do it. And I didn't need to take advantage of people. And in a lot of my sales stories with customers, we're all people. We're all going through bad stuff. We just don't talk about it as much. How many times do you walk into a home and somebody's in the hospital, somebody just died, somebody's flipping their house because of their parents passed on? Those are heavy things. And I walk into a house like that and I'm like, why am I even here at this moment? And, I'm human. I mean, how many times we've talked about this bad medical history, but, I have 5 kids. Every house I left, they probably knew I had 5 kids. We talked about it. I had a heart attack. I've had a brain aneurysm. I've had major medical. My family's had major medical. So I find different ways to relate. It has nothing to do with the situation they find themselves in. And that's part of the empathy. And I don't want to say it's not a performance, because it is a different type of script, but you got to feel it. And if you don't feel it, you can't fake it. So that's where it came from, Will.
Yeah.
It came from talking to people, because this is just a people thing. They're not asking for a specific pump. They're asking for their basement to be dry. So why talk about it? Just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Do you want a battery backup? I mean, that might be as much product as I talk about with a sump pump.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to be okay when the power goes out?
That's right.
Yes.
I mean,
Perfect. Click that button. That's taken care of. Let's move on.
that's it.
Yeah. So it's funny, Scott. You and I have talked about this. Like, my favorite thing in the world was when somebody gave me a book, Good to Great by Zig Ziglar. And there's a section in that book. He's like, I was so good at sales. When I first started, I had to sell my dog. I had to sell my car. I had to sell my TV. And it's like, that's the thing about sales, is you got to have the life experience that comes along with it. But there's this weird segue where people just get ultra sticky with it versus ultra internalizing with it, like you have. And I hate that you've had all that stuff happen in your life, but like, that's come with miles of doing it. How are you bringing that to some of the sales trainings that you were doing with 350 reps last year?
Again, I go back to, these people are human just like us. I mean, I know what it was like when I left my home this morning at 2:30 in the morning. It was another week of travel. So, I mean, my wife, things happen. Like, heck, somebody was cutting the grass and threw a rock and shattered our sliding glass window last week. She called me when I was on the road and was just like, I took care of it. She's a beast. I love Teresa. You know Teresa. So she's in this industry too. But she just handles it. But she called me and told me about it. We're human. Hey, guess what? I called the door guy and said, time to move up the doors. We're going to get our French doors. But stuff happens. And
by the way, that door guy must have had a cousin in the landscaping business or something that's just rolling around. I'm just kidding. He's throwing gravel out in the yard. That'd be a good good gig right there.
But just crazy stuff happens. And, when we walk into these homes and our doing our warm-ups or get to know you and all that fun stuff that we do, it's learning why. It is understanding what's going on in that household at that moment. And it doesn't always have to do with a wet basement or a dirt crawl space. And it's digging down and finding it through conversation and showing that you actually care. And, Will, I'm not one of those sales guys that ran 15, 20 appointments a week. In fact, I wanted to run 6 or 8 because it was time with the customer. Love the one you're with and work with the one that's in front of you. And that's where I made the most money. And it was because I slowed down and I got to know people. Now, there were some people that didn't appreciate that, and they were probably never going to be my customer, but the majority of my customers responded positively to that. And
but that's also and we're going to dive into some of your operational background. We've been talking a lot about sales, but you have operations background and business background. But one of the things that I think has been really differential in your sales training is, and I don't know why the hell this is such a thing in our market, well, any home services market, including Kohler, everybody out there has got a hard sell approach. Now, but you've twisted it around to be no, you don't need to sign something right here, and people still do it because you approach it that way.
they do.
You're going over this in the trainings, right? And tell me a little bit more about that. Tradies, running your small business can be demanding. You got suppliers you got to work with. You're managing crews. Hell, you're chasing sales. It's a lot to take in. Listen, if you want to grow your business, you got to stop working in it and you got to start working on it. So that's where my friends at Foundation Rescue Supply come in. You're not just getting foundation repair products and waterproofing products and air quality control products. With their nationwide distribution, you're getting a partner who knows how to help you scale. And that's why I use them. The Foundation Rescue Supply team has industry knowledge that'll help make your life easier. You get the tools, the trainings, the systems that you need to move the needle. You want your sales team to close more leads? Done, because they have the proven process for that. You need your crews to work smarter, not harder? Done. Their installation training will get you out there and rocking and rolling in the field. With Foundation Rescue Supply, you're not just buying materials here. You're buying a better business system that they have helped create. And you sell more, you install more, and you grow your team. So the bottom line is this: you get best industry pricing, you get field productivity on track, and you get more revenue out of everybody on your team. So this is your chance to step up, scale up, and thrive. If you are ready to make that happen, head to foundationrescuesupply.com, check out their catalog, and speak to my friends, their team, how you can take beyond the products with your company with Foundation Rescue Supply.
There's a point where I start to present price. We get done the inspection, and before we get into solutions, I tell them again what kind of company we are. I tell them again what kind of person I am. And most of that has to do with we're not going to be high pressure, ... A lot of it is inferred, but when it comes down to it, my tagline always was, I want you to sleep on it. And I want you to make the best decision for your family. And sometimes I might not be that, and I won't ever know why, but I'm good with that. I want you to make the best decision. And me asking for the business today is not going to necessarily give you a better value, because what you're asking me for is to fix the problem. So I'd rather get you to think about it, and I'll come back and gain your business within the next couple hours, because my follow-up game was strong. And for me, follow-up within 72 hours, that process, that's where I won my business. And that is a teachable process. But for the most part, I almost walk out of the house forgetting to officially ask for the business. I've pushed for it throughout the whole process. Yes. I've asked closing questions. Yes. But asking for the business, I'm going to really almost let them ask me to do business. But there's always, it's fun. To me, that's the fun part of all of it, is get to the end. You've taken them shopping. I joke around in my sales trainings, you might have heard it or not heard it. We don't go to the grocery store and put things in our shopping basket just to get up to the register to take them out. So we've done our jobs right. We've teased them with enough information to make them feel comfortable. They're not going to take it out of the basket at the end. And that's how I've always looked at it. I mean, when they start scratching things off, I was just like, I'd never want to be behind you at the grocery store. And it's playful, but it's at that point, I got enough confidence in the relationship or the connection.
You built the rapport,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's like you did the legwork.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, it's funny though, because when we talk about like selling, like, dude, I look at all the national competitors right now, and they all kind of follow the same path of closing. And it's like, dude, if I got to walk into a room and be like 4 other companies, I don't want to be just like them. Like, I want to be the human being. And then I know you agree. The best sale is the one that comes natural.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, and it's everything's about everything. I bitch about that with salespeople. Like, yeah, it's the little thing, like the showing up on time, being polite, you know, actually listening. And it's like, what do you know? Sales come. And then be a good person. Like, wait a minute. You know, that's like, Scott, you and I should write a sales book.
Hey.
And it's like Guide to Sales. And it's 2 pages. Be a good person. million copies.
$29.99
like
per PDF.
Yeah, that's right. No, because I know what would happen if we wrote it. You and I have big enough hearts, we'd just give it away. But so hold on. We got to rewind. I did you a disservice because you haven't just done sales trainings, right? You come from an operational background too. Like you've ran businesses like ours. You've ended up having to establish teams within those businesses. And, you know, you're starting to bring on some unique things that are not very common in our industry. And we're going to get into this consignment program. It's just crazy. So, you know, how has that helped the growth of FRS in the last, 2 years under your leadership?
As far as consignment?
Oh, no, just your operational background and how that bringing that to the table has been just such a value add.
We're bringing on customers extremely fast. The sales training classes, get them in a room, and honestly, there's not a lot of customers in these rooms, and we're using it really to show what FRS is about and the services that we can provide them outside of the products. So it's like a free trial. They get to come test it out, but they're going to leave with something. There's tidbits everywhere that I talk about that if you just do 1 or 2 of them, you're going to put $500,000 on your bottom line in revenue. So for me, it's been phenomenal. I wish I could put a true number on it, but I don't want to tip my cards to everybody because people are watching.
No, it's okay.
Our competition's watching now and mimicking many of the things that we've done in the last, 18 months. And we've given them a roadmap. So I hope they can catch up.
Yeah, heck, even the big dogs, imitation is a great form of flattery.
Yeah.
It is a shame that the big dogs have to steal it, but we're not going to get into that today. But no, let's go back down, though, because I don't think I gave you enough credit. Like, describe to me your operational background, because you've gone from selling to, the marketing side, but man, you've had to run businesses like ours. Take us through that history real quick.
So I did work at 2 different basement systems dealers. The first one sold our company to JES, which is kind of some of the timeline of me and you meeting each other. I know at that point, not only was I selling for her, but I was running as her general manager. So I really got to see a lot there. I learned a lot from that company. I learned a lot from really basement systems. I'm not going to dismiss it. When she sold her company, a secondary basement systems company popped up. 2 sales guys that I had hired at Evergreen started that company, and I came in and boy, did I run sales at that time. I ran as fast and hard as I ever could. Made great money. It was, from what we were always told, one of the fastest growing basement systems dealers ever. And we had fun. And, at some point, production got really deep, 20 plus weeks. And one of the owners asked me to come over to the production side. And I took on production, and I took it on when they were growing from. We were doing 300,000 a month in production when I took over, and the last month that I ran production, we did like 1.2 million, and that was a big jump in 9 months, 10 months. It was a very short period, and then I left that company unexpectedly and moved into a different area when Larry came in and bought 30% of that company. So that was my story, though, and I always said it. I mean, I learned a lot there. I learned the departments and how to run them. Now, did I do everything the way they taught it? No, because I still think there's better ways of doing certain things. And I got another opportunity to work for an independent. And, at that time when I started with him, man, I was running sales, but I was booking my own appointments. I was running the crews. I was ordering the product. I was hiring. I was doing quality check. That first year, I mean, we did $2 million that first year, and I didn't know where I was going every single day of the week.
Yeah, but I think that was a good, call it milestone, though, because you went from, hey, here's your systems and processes out of the box to what most contractors, and when I say most, 90+% of contractors have, which is, here's the product, put it in, go sell it, done, and there's no SOPs. There's nothing. Really? It's like flying by the seat of your pants, bro. And if I can say it, that was Copper Fox, is that right?
Yeah, he's doing great.
Yeah, who is still growing to this day, like by leaps and bounds.
Yeah,
so
he's going to be probably $5-6 million, and it's a year after I
Jeremy's
left.
Got a great outfit out there.
So he's amazing, and just approach things differently. And I'm grateful for my time with him, because without him, I wouldn't have met FRS or Kent Companies. And, like I said, when Mike showed me his roadmap, I mean, we rebranded, we launched a website. We did some heavy lifting the first couple months I was there. And this has been the most fun I've had in this industry. And I've gotten to see people increase their business. And, I didn't share this with you before today, but I was running some numbers, and I think we're servicing like 226 or so customers right now. Their growth this year has been almost 30+% in purchase. So I mean, this. I mean, that's a mathematical equation. If you're growing that much, your revenue has really shot up, and that was across the board. I mean, I'm sure there were some companies that didn't meet their benchmark, but the average was 30+%, and that's good growth for the number of new customers we had come on board.
Well, and I got to tell you, and I'm not blowing smoke here, Scott. Like, we get people that want to sponsor the podcast all the time, but we're friends. One of the things, and I don't know if I've told you this directly, but I'm going to say it now, and I'm going to say it without any four-letter words. I may cuss a little bit. I mean, 90% of these vendors, all they want you to do is sell more. That's it. With no regard to the operations, no regards to what it means to your balance sheets. And just so they can say, hey, you grew 200%. And then, by the way, they cash the check and they move on, but they don't deal with the aftermath of the screw ups of like, oh, wow, we're underwater on our balance sheets because we financed all this stuff because our vendor told us to grow. Just grow. And so now let's take a deep dive into that, because like the number one thing that blew my mind when we got to talking about this is when you guys started creating your own consignment program. Pretty hard to do if you're not backed by $1 billion a year privately held concrete company. What was the light bulb? Was this Mike? We giving Mike credit for this?
Mike was doing this for years. This is prior
and to be clear, to anybody that doesn't know what it is, let's break down what the consignment program is.
Most definitely. So consignment, it's for the cream of the top level customer. This is somebody that wants a relationship. This is somebody that we trust, and somebody that pays their bills, because, that's part of the definition of a customer. So with that, we look at a customer's usage. We start with like a 30 to 60 day usage. What are you going to use? And when a customer can share that with us, we can drill down product pretty well. How many piers are you going to use? Or how much crawl space liner are you going to use? Do you use the same stuff? It's not about a program that encompasses all of your product. It's your core product. Because, Will, I bet you've never taken a phone call that says, hey, Sally Lou had to cancel her job this week. She's going to go in 3 weeks. We have 2 days that we need to fill. Well, you always have to go to the warehouse and see if you have that product. It's inevitable, especially with the smaller companies that can't have the inventory on hand. So with Consignment, we work with you to come up with a baseline amount of product for your warehouse. So we ship it to you, and you don't pay for the product. You do pay for the shipping. We can work on that later on in the process. But we have our customers on Consignment do a cycle count twice a month, typically, let's say generically the 10th and the 20th of the month. And we ask you to count what's left, what's on your shelf. And the difference is what we bill the customer. So you get to have the product at your disposal, use it as quickly as you need to, and then you only get billed for when you use it. So the beautiful part of that is it matches your cash flow, because hopefully your customer pays you. And when we send you your bill, at that point, you still have net 30 terms with us. So
that's unheard of. That's insane, because we're in an asset-heavy business. And I'll give credit where credit's due. Like HVAC, electrical's been doing this for years, and plumbing. But, you know, the material cost to revenue ratio is wildly different than a very steel asset-heavy industry like foundation repair, waterproofing, drainage, things like that. So, like, the fact that you guys have done that, and also you talked about like that customer had to move back. We got a 2-day opening. Do we have the product? Most people don't realize you just save them also in rush order shipping, which eats their margins alive. And it's like, well, we got to fill the calendar, so call the vendor and have them rush order next day, ship a dehumidifier. Well, by the time that dehumidifier gets in, there ain't no money left in the margin. It made you feel good. But, you know, with it already sitting there with a running inventory and even a small line of surplus, people don't understand like how insane that is. Like how important it is to the numbers, but also held your balance sheets.
The balance sheet. I was waiting for that key word right there. It's not on yours. It's on mine. So, I mean, the accounting world, now you can match all of your costs. Job costing is so much cleaner now. It's not you're not tapping some other account and inventory. I mean, this is real-time numbers, and this isn't for everybody. I want to see an organized customer. We're getting ready to put some assets in somebody's building. I need to see some organization, because if that can't be demonstrated, it's real hard to do the program. And some people fail at it. I mean, I'm not going to lie. And they still remain customers, but even they say it's hard to commit to count twice a month. So everybody's got to see value in it. In our trainings, we say this: if you want to talk about saving money in material percentages, we can do it. But realistically, we're talking about a point, maybe a point and a half, 2 points on some point things. But, you know, if you want to dive into it, Consignment's the fastest way to get the most savings, because we can talk about volume. A price guide's the beginning of the conversation. I want to hear usage. Let's talk about how much somebody's going to buy. And then, if necessary, we can work with price, because that's part of the relationship. And Consignment, you know, I got some accounts that have $10,000 worth of product, and I got some accounts that have $250,000. And these guys that know how to use the program use it to their advantage, because that funds growth. If you don't have $150,000 worth of product sitting in your warehouse, and you have access to that money to drive the other part of the business, that's a truck, right? I mean, maybe not a crawl space, but I mean, definitely a steel. I mean, you're going to get $100,000 truck out of it.
Well, I mean, you do this where, I mean, I know not all companies qualify.
Yeah.
But it's like the practice of being able to do beginning a month, end of month, or half month and end of month inventory is a good practice. And I mean, it's one of those where, if you're listening out there and you don't know what shrink is, figure it out, because you got a bunch of stuff that you paid for that you don't know where the hell it went, and it shows up in your profit and loss under
Shows
shrink.
up in your dumpster.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me started. Hold on. That never happens in my company, Scott.
What,
Ever.
that $20 roll of crawl space tape doesn't bounce around the truck for 6 months?
Oh, God. But I tell you, though, this is crazy. So we spent some time on like sales and accounting, but you guys don't say, hey, you don't qualify. You actually say, let's work on it.
Work towards
this is back to that long-term thinking that I don't see with a lot of vendors, where it's like, hey, if it's not the right time, that just means it's not the right time now. Like, let's work with you because we want to be around for another 100 years, right?
Okay.
And so, like, you are also doing some things on operations around that, as well as, like, heck, you put a big lean on, like, well, everybody wants more leads, right? But you've also, like, pushed in and been like, hey, do you have the staff available to convert everyone you get? I mean, so like you're supporting not only that in the operations side and the front end, call it marketing and sales. What's the next big chapter? Like, because you guys are slaying dragons left and right. Now we're going to get into the sales software. We talked about that, but now it's like, woo, can we talk about it, Scott? Are we allowed to talk about stuff behind the curtain?
I can tell you we got a roadmap, and, the sales software is a heavy lift for us this year. And obviously we're going to continuously improve that platform, but you and I have a mutual friend in this industry that has really helped us with marketing. And Greenbaum Stiers is...
we can talk about Mike.
I
He's
know.
been on this
his
show.
team is phenomenal.
Their
for
team
us.
is phenomenal. Yeah, they're great.
I used them.
Anthony Brown, if you're listening, you're probably on the fence. I'm joking. We love Anthony here.
But, I used them as a customer at Copper Fox. They did lead gen for us. And, when I came back to FRS and, I saw them guys, I know the relationships was rocky with Nash, and they were looking for a new home. And I hope I've welcomed them. I know we've passed business back and forth and shared a lot. They're going to be a big part of Indy. I mean, they're doing KPIs. They're doing some of the marketing stuff. I mean, these guys know their numbers, but they're doing my marketing. There's FRS is using them for some of our marketing. And, I know we've been blasting this event out there, but I mean, man, in the last 30 days, this thing has touched 208,000 people. I was blown away at some of the efforts that they've put into this event for us. But if I were to tip my cards and say, what would the perfect thing be that would help this industry next? It is simple. It is leads. So we are definitely exploring as a company how we can generate leads for our customers. Realistically, that'll probably be next year's heavy lift. And I'm not sure it's going to touch our entire market, but we will definitely begin that process of generating leads, because some of these guys have built the mechanism to sell the work and install the work. And now they're just waiting for leads. I got customers that are being choked by these bigger companies with lead cost. And you know what that looks like out there. I mean, $900 isn't a foreign number, and it's gross. So I think we can help with that.
Yeah. Well, and I got to tell you, when I meant ethos, like this ethos of support, not just like, here's your product, and also we have sales trainings. Oh, we'll make some brochures for you. Sorry, that sounded terrible.
No.
Like, you're doing all this stuff, but you're putting the suite together. And by the way, we know a lot of the same people. Like, for example, our friends, the Morris family down in like Atlanta. Massive market. Not only do they use your products, but they also do commercial coatings. That doesn't even touch your industry. And you're still helping them. And the sales product's going to help with that. Legion's going to help with that, but also the relationship with Stiers and all that. And gosh, they're some of my favorite people anyway. So we're fine to shout them out. But
This is becoming technology, Will. I mean, with your platform and what we're doing, and then, we have a really strong relationship with Foundation Scan. Those
yeah,
guys are
Brian's product is so cool.
incredible. And then even Contractor Accelerator, which has a drawing platform incorporated. The the team over there is building as fast as they can build too, and they're fun to work with as well. These are tools contractors need, and
Mhm.
sometimes I think if we vetted it for them, it makes their decision a little easier. I'm not saying everything's the best. I'm just saying the team that we're working with right now cares.
You guys are very supplementary vendor agnostic. I just made that up on the spot, by the way. I don't even know what that means. But like, well, the relationship with April Air, Greenbaum Stires, Contractor Accelerator, things like that. You guys have been, very agnostic in the regard of like, no, here's the tools. Like, we're going to assemble the best, and you have to decide.
Yeah.
And you know what? There are some companies that's like, yeah, that doesn't really work for me. But hey, listen, thanks for the offer, but I'm going to use 3 out of the 17 things that you got because I like you that much.
That's it.
And that's what you do not see that from a vendor anymore. It's crazy. So
When we get into product stuff like that, Will, it's a very simple question. I mean, let's just say April Air versus Santa Fe, which doesn't mean anything nowadays, of course, because of what's happened.
Mhm.
But, you'd bump into people that are so adamant about using something. And my question was always the same. Who taught you to use it?
oh, yeah.
And quite frankly,
Earl.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
and
was,
Earl was here for 2 years and left.
yeah, somebody taught them. And I mean, the same thing
Yeah.
with like Zoller or whatever the pump or whatever it's who taught you to use that product, and why have we put it way up here in the process? So
Yeah.
I just make people question stuff.
Speaking of questioning things, I got to ask how much pucker effect happened. You like to do this thing at your events, especially when there's a mix of people in the crowd, not just owners, where you set up a stage of questions. And of course, to be clear, in our industry as much, I'm sure, there's no embellishment. There's never embellishment. Ever, ever, ever. And it's like, how big's your company? Well, you grew to 5 million. It's like, all right, did you sell 5 million or did you install 5 million? Oh, we sold 5 million. Well, how much did you install? We struggled there. It was about 2.2. Yeah, but you never hear that, right?
That 6-month backlog.
Yeah, that's right. We got one truck doing 2.6 million. And you're like, but anyway. And by the way, human nature is that way. But you do this cool little forum where you ask questions that are very challenging. And the first time you did it, like, it was crickets for like the first 2 minutes. But then finally, the questions you were asking were like, people were like, yeah, this is my number, or this is how we do it. And then it created this sense of like, oh no, pull the guard down here. Like, we all got problems in our business. And gosh, you covered everything from conversion rates to review mixes to how fast you're actually answering the phone, whether or not, you care whether or not you're answering the phone that fast. And like, it was just wild to watch that from afar. Like, what spawned these, call it Phil Donahue style, like, interviews, open forum questionnaires? I mean, did you accidentally pop an extra pill that morning? What happened?
I'm going to say, because of where our event took place, Will, it was in Charlotte. And because it was in Charlotte, you couldn't touch a table that wasn't a competitor.
Yep.
And I
remember
truly
that.
wanted these guys to understand they weren't competitors. We have competitors, and I'm not going to give them the airtime,
Yep.
but together we need to be raising the tide and showing everybody somebody else set the price. Somebody else kind of set these standards. We need to be better, and we can be. So by asking the tough questions, I was trying to get everybody to realize we put our pants on the same way every single morning. We still have the same fights every single morning. We still have the same personnel problems. We still have inventory problems. We have accounting and marketing problems. And who can give you better information than a group of people that will share with each other? I mean, the idea of what's your bottom line profit margin? I mean, nobody
Yeah.
wants to answer that question, but everybody
I
wonders
know it's
what
like,
their
what's your credit score?
yeah.
It's like, I don't know. Do I want to check it?
But you're wondering, you know what it's like as an owner until you had some of these groups and support. I mean,
Yeah.
we all asked, is it good enough? Am I
Yeah.
doing better than anybody? Am I doing worse?
Well, I got to tell you, I hope you continue that, because the first time you did it, you told me you were going to do it, by the way. And I'm like, all right, bro, let's see how it goes. And the first two questions was crickets. I was like, is this a bad Andy Kaufman comedian special here? Like, nobody's getting the jokes. But then you kept chipping at it, and it is like your part of your greatest hits. When you do those at a conference, man, they are awesome. And by the way, when I say a conference, like, the same people are coming to the next one, and they built that relationship, right? And then they remember that, because hell, I stood up in one of those. It's like, I'm sure you guys think we're killing it here, but at the time, like, we had a really rough set of quarters. We were like a 4.6% net, and everybody's like, really, 4.6 net? I thought you guys would be like 15. It's like, no, bro, I wish it was, but it ain't. And I remember that. Oh gosh, Todd and Josh at Healthy Home, some of our favorite people in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
I looked at him and was like, dude, you probably made more money in the last 2 quarters at a $3 million a year company than I did at a 15. And they were like, wow. And I'm like, yeah, bro, it happens. And that humility, just chipping away at it, is just so awesome. So, but speaking of humility, Scott, I am known as the patron saint of fucking it up and screwing things up. But I say, if you're going to screw it up so bad, make it so good that you can brag about it. So what's a screw up you made in your career that at least you could brag about it and laugh now? That would hopefully help one of our 6 listeners out there learn a lesson and carry on with it.
Wow. Okay. Sales experience. From sales, I took away, I didn't need to run as many appointments to make money. And for me, Will, I mean, you know my background. I mean, for me, $1 million earner before it was cool, and more and more and more. And that's going back 15 years. So for me,
yeah, you were doing $1 million like 15 years ago,
yeah,
which was like
fun.
That was upper echelon.
And for me, I learned I wanted to slow down. And when I got pushed hard, it was fine, but I threw away more opportunities because I was pushed hard and I was losing money for the company, and I felt bad for it. So that was a regret, because instead of running 15 appointments, they could have had another sales rep, which obviously could have helped take care of the peaks and valleys and all that other fun stuff. So I regret that. I ran too hard for too long. Training, my first company I was at, training was important, but I found training to be even more important at the next company and the next company. And now where I'm at now, it's the most important thing in the world. I hated role playing, but now it's second nature, because this industry just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, dude, you are a patron saint of our industry. And dude, we are getting old, bro. We've been at this too long. You tried to escape to Kohler, and it's like the scene in The Godfather, where it's like Al Pacino says, I tried to get out, but they pulled me right back in. And I am so glad you are back, and you have been back for years, obviously. But I'm looking forward to Indianapolis. Appreciate everything you're doing for us and our contractor buddies out there. Otherwise, you guys out there listening, I appreciate you guys listening to Scott and I today. And I get the studio all to myself, thanks to Tura not being here. But we'll see you next week on another episode of Beers with Contractors. See you guys.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Beers with Contractors. We hope you enjoyed our chat as much as we did. Before we say our final goodbyes, a friendly reminder. Beers with Contractors encourages responsible drinking. If you choose to enjoy a beverage during our time together, please do so in moderation and only if you're of legal drinking age in your country or state. Furthermore, the advice and insights shared in this podcast are for informational purposes only. Always consult with professionals and experts in your field, and be sure to follow local laws and regulations regarding licensing and permits. We're here to help, entertain, and inspire, but your safety and compliance are important. So, as you head out into the world of construction and contracting, remember to build responsibly and make decisions that stand the test of time. Thanks for joining us today. We'll catch you on the next episode of Beers with Contractors. Until then, cheers to your success.